My name is Dr. Emily Taylor. I'm excited to be here. So I'm preparing next month to start my 15th year at Cal Poly, where I have the best job in the world. I teach brilliant students. I'm a physiologist, which means I study how the body works. So I teach human physiology. I teach our future doctors. But in addition, I teach herpetology. So I'm a specialist in the physiology of reptiles, lizards and snakes, specifically rattlesnakes. Okay, rattlesnakes are fascinating creatures because they tend to evoke very specific reactions in people. They either hate them or they love them. So who loves rattlesnakes? Raise your hand. Who thinks they're so cool? Who hates rattlesnakes and is terrified? Right? So most people have an opinion on them. Well, so my laboratory, we conduct research on them. And right now at my laboratory, we have about 30 Cal Poly students, which is a really large number, who do research out in the field on rattlesnakes. Does anyone here know where we have the highest concentration of rattlesnakes locally? It's a park. Montana de Oro, you got it, is absolutely full of rattlesnakes, but most of us never even see them there because, contrary to popular belief, they hide. They don't want to have anything to do with us. So what I'd like to tell you about now is to do a little bit of myth busting about rattlesnakes. And I'm going to tell you some of the things that we have discovered in our research on rattlesnakes. Okay, so first of all, the biggest one that I need to tell you is that rattlesnakes do not want to bite you, despite how it may seem, all right? So rattlesnake venoms are produced primarily to help them kill and digest their prey. So rattlesnake venoms have a really complex cocktail of proteins in them, and in fact, a lot of those proteins have now been harvested and used to make various types of medicines, for example, for cardiovascular disease. So that's just one way in which rattlesnakes can be really important. Another thing to understand is that you may have heard that babies are worse, that they give worse bites. That's not true. Most everything you've heard about rattlesnakes is probably a myth. In fact, bites from adult rattlesnakes are much worse than bites from babies. All right, who gets bitten? Very rare to get bitten by a rattlesnake. There's only about 8,000 bites in the entire United States in a year, and only a handful, less than 5 deaths, usually from people who don't seek treatment. Who gets bitten? But you can guess. Primarily young males to the hand with a high alcohol level in their blood. So rattlesnakes really want to just be going around doing their thing. Okay, so some of the things that we have learned and other people who've studied them have learned using a really amazing technique called radiotelemetry, where we actually surgically implant a little bleeper inside their bodies, and then we can follow around the same snake for up to 2 years. We do this at Montana de Oro. Some of you guys may have seen my students out there with an antenna tracking the snakes around. That's my team. We've learned that female rattlesnakes can mate with male rattlesnakes in either the spring or the fall. By the way, I'm going to talk about rattlesnake sex. I hope it's not too early for that. They can mate in the spring or fall, and they can store that sperm in their bodies for the record that we know about is 5 years. And then, even though there's not a male around, they can just choose whenever they want to fertilize the eggs and have the babies. Now, speaking of eggs, they don't lay eggs. They actually have live birth, just like we do, with little umbilical cords and placentas. And when they're born, the baby rattlesnakes are actually cared for by the mothers for about 2 weeks, which is really rare for even a reptile. And so rattlesnakes are getting much maligned you watch Discovery Channel and Animal Planet, and they're always rattling and looking fierce. Well, that's actually not the way they are. Mostly when we study them, they're hiding from us. They're saying, I hope you don't see me, because they consider us to be predators. Okay. What are some more other important things? Rattlesnakes obviously keep wild rodent populations in check, but now we've had some new research showing that it's not just that. It turns out that we have a spread of parasitic ticks throughout the country who carry various diseases like Lyme disease. And this new one, I don't know if you guys heard, the Lone Star tick, which can actually make people become allergic to meat if you get bitten. We don't have them in California, thank goodness. Anyway, there's all these horrible parasites. Well, it turns out that when a rattlesnake eats these millions of mice every year, it eats the ticks along with them, and it's been shown that they help to reduce tick populations. So I hope I've told you a number of ways in which rattlesnakes are actually really important animals. My laboratory, in addition to research, we do outreach. So anyone who's interested in my students bringing snakes, they could be rattlesnakes, or we could have non-venomous snakes. We have a lot of mascot snakes that are really friendly and are good for kids to hold. We go to schools, we go to lots of kinds of events, and I can be reached at, my email address is etaylor@calpoly.edu. You can also Google, what's on my shirt here, the Physiological Ecology of Reptiles Laboratory at Cal Poly, and you can find my contact information through there. So thank you very much for listening to my information about rattlesnakes, and I hope next time you're lucky enough to see one in the wild, you'll step back and watch it and observe it and think, how beautiful is this animal?